Okay, some of you are like, where's the happy part? It comes later, right? This is the real part in marriage. For about a decade, now we've got 5 kids. Now the church is really growing. Now I'm broken physically. Adrenal glands are fatigued and neurotransmitters are fatigued. I'm tired and I can't think straight, but my job is to preach all day on Sunday while my critics try to see me make a mistake. Lots of pressure and stress. Things are growing very fast. And we had, I think we had one of those make or break days in our marriage. We were sitting on a couch upstairs. These are all stories that, and some of you wonder, why is Mark telling us this? Is this really appropriate? Grace wrote it all in the book, and I've never shared these things because it's her story, not mine. And I want to honor her, confess my own sin, but not talk about things in her life. That's her prerogative as to whether or not she wants to do that publicly. And she's very brave, and she wants to help people. And so she has decided to share these things now publicly for the first time. But we had this evening where we were sitting upstairs on a couch, and our kids were in bed. We're just hanging out. And I would say that our marriage was not hostile, but it wasn't warm. It was just more cool. And we were sitting on the couch, and I just started asking her some questions about previous experiences in her life and relationships. And this was an area we'd explored previously, but I just, for some reason, started asking questions again in that area. And Grace, as her name would indicate, was gracious enough to answer them. And she explained some things that had happened to her. And she looked at me, and I'm bawling. At that point, I was not a crier. Now that I've gotten, by the grace of God, over my bitterness and repented of it as sin, and the Holy Spirit is making me more like Jesus, I cry a lot more, to be honest with you, especially when it comes to women and children who have been harmed. It's real devastating for me based upon what I've seen in my history and what I now know of my wife. And I mean not my personal history. I've never harmed a woman or a child, but what I've witnessed from other men. And she looked at me, she said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. What did I say wrong?" And I said, "You didn't say anything wrong, honey. You're a rape victim. You're a sexual assault victim." I said, "I didn't know that about you. I've known you for, gosh, at that point, this was 6 years ago. We met in 1988. So this would have been in maybe 2006, 5 or 6 years ago. I'd known her for, 18 years. I didn't know. And to be honest with you, she didn't know. She never really connected her story to the reality of what was done to her. And I remember thinking, okay, it's been a long time, but now I know my wife. The truth is, sometimes when we're dating, we're playing a role like an actor or an actress, right? Trying to appear as someone. And then once you're married for a while, you figure out who you're actually married to. Well, now I knew my wife. And I knew what the root of our struggles was. Yes, I had bitterness. Yes, we'd had a secret. Yes, life was complicated. Yes, we didn't have a pastor. Yes, we didn't have a lot of good counsel. But the real problem was that my wife had been sinned against. And that as a result of that, anytime I would become angry or irritated, or my voice would denote such an emotion, she would shut down and become very fearful, which makes absolutely perfect sense and is quite reasonable. And it indicated why I knew that she loved me, and I knew that I loved her, and I knew that we wanted to be together, but it was so hard for us to have that real close intimacy that we felt was possible as Christians. And now I knew why. And so Grace has got a whole chapter on that experience and what she learned and how to help others in the book. It's why we do redemption groups at Marsfield Church. Some of you may ask, why were redemption groups created, and why do we put such an emphasis on women who have been assaulted, as well as men. That's why. Because there weren't the kind of resources that I felt would be most helpful for my wife. And so as a church, we rallied support and wanted to help create a church that could help people and to provide those resources to other churches.